Hey, I'm Hassan, and welcome to Retro Revive. On this episode, I have a piece of tech history, a netbook. Before the video begins, I would greatly appreciate it if you all subscribe, as it would greatly help out the channel and it motivates me to keep making videos. Thank you, and on with the video. Hey, I'm Hassan, and welcome to Retro Revive. Today, I finally have a device that wasn't made by Apple. A Dell Inspiron Mini 1012, a netbook released in 2010. Netbooks were the predecessors to tablets and Chromebooks. They were designed for budget-conscious consumers who needed a laptop primarily for internet usage, as the name suggests, and basic tasks like word processing and video playback. They gained popularity in the late 2000s and early 2010s, especially in the US during the 2008 economic recession. This was due to their unbeatable prices. Although the hardware wasn't that powerful, it sufficed for most users. To complement the cheap hardware, netbooks were often seen running lightweight operating systems like Windows XP and Linux. Everything seemed fine until their prominence declined. Competitors emerged such as tablets, the MacBook Air, and Chromebooks, which offered better battery life and improved performance. Toward the end of their reign, netbooks often shipped with Windows 7 Starter Edition. Windows 7 Starter Edition was pretty lackluster and stripped out a lot of features supported in normal Windows 7. You couldn't change your wallpaper, there wasn't support for multiple displays, and worst of all, you could only run 3 programs at once. These limitations made Windows 7 Starter Edition the Trojan horse to end netbooks once and for all. Despite their decline, netbooks hold historical significance due to their influence on the tech industry. It was the unbeatable price that pushed forward innovation and gave us the devices that ultimately killed it. It was a sacrifice for better computing. Alright, enough with the history lesson. Let's take this little green laptop for a spin. Let's begin with the specs of the laptop. Inside, we have a single-core Intel Atom N450 CPU clocked at 1.66 GHz, 1GB of DDR2 RAM, and a spinning disk hard drive. I put an SSD inside of it one time, but it barely made a difference. On the outside, we have a 10-inch 1024x600 display, 3 USB 2.0 ports, 1 VGA port, 1 Ethernet port, an audio jack and a microphone jack, and an SD card reader. The build quality, as expected, is mediocre. The display flexes when the required amount of pressure is applied, but the keyboard and the rest of the bottom chassis are pretty sturdy. On the topic of the keyboard, it feels mushy and cramped due to the small size of the laptop. The trackpad is also small, lacks multi-touch, and the clicks feel like I have to apply an uncomfortable amount of pressure. Luckily, however, the trackpad is able to be tapped instead of clicked, which feels a lot better. But even then, I just use a mouse. I feel as if trying to test out modern software is a bit of a waste of time. While this laptop can technically run Windows 11, due to its lowly hardware, it's obviously just going to chug and crash. But we can take a look at how it performed in its heyday. I have some old programs and games to test, and I'll even give it a go on the old net. With that out of the way, let's begin. As for general usage with productivity software, it unsurprisingly works well. It's kind of what these laptops were designed for because most of the people buying them wanted to accomplish that. I tested out Microsoft Office 2007. I typed up a document and made a quick PowerPoint. And my only issue was the size of the laptop made the experience a little bit uncomfortable. Media playback was also fine. Here I'm playing one of my videos at 720p locally, which is fine and watchable. Even though the screen was small, I didn't see it as an issue. Music playback was the coolest part thanks to the psychedelic visualizer built into Windows XP's media player. As for the laptop speakers, they were surprisingly good. They got kinda loud and didn't sound muffled or tinny. There isn't really much else to say here. It did everything I threw at it. That means we had to push it a little bit harder. Let's test out the old net on Internet Explorer 8. I really only wanted to test out 2010 YouTube on the old net because I have a much bigger surprise coming up. YouTube loaded fast. It could have been due to the missing thumbnails on the archive, but I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. That unsurprisingly means it can handle plenty of other sites just fine. Now, I'm gonna go back on what I said about modern software. I used Chameleon, an actively supported Windows XP web browser to test out modern sites, and I was blown away. Before I get into the results, I know MyPal exists, but I had issues with it on this laptop. Alright, starting with 2023's YouTube. It loads and works almost fully. Chameleon uses the mobile version of the website, and it chugs a little bit, but is usable and loads fast enough. The only issue was due to the size of the display. I couldn't access comments or video descriptions. Other social media sites like Twitter or X or whatever didn't really seem to work. More basic sites, like ones with articles, do work better though. They are also far more usable than any of the previously mentioned sites. Now, it's time for the real test. how well can this netbook's beastly Intel GMA 3150 iGPU run games? I'm going to be testing GTA Vice City, Quake 3 Arena, and Half-Life 2. And in true Windows XP fashion, I used an unregistered copy of HyperCam 2 to capture my footage. Therefore, the recording may not look exactly like how you'd see it in real life, as the frames might be a little choppy and the colors might be off, but I had to be authentic. Starting with Vice City, with a low render distance and a resolution of 480p, the game fluctuated between 20 to 30 FPS, and seemed like something I'd play to waste time instead of trying to beat due to its mediocre performance. Next up is Quake 3. At 800 by 600 with high settings, the game ran much better than GTA. I got between 50 and 90 FPS. You'd imagine the far range of frames would lead to frame spikes, but I didn't have any. Finally, Half-Life. I don't know what is happening. The game just crashed and it's making this beeping sound. I don't think I'm gonna run this on this computer again. In conclusion, I'd stick to games from the late 90s or early 2000s. Games like the first two I tested, or even others like Deus Ex or Diablo should be enough to get the most out of your netbook. In conclusion, the Dell Inspiron Mini 1012 represents a time defined by affordability and practicality. Netbooks and their humble specs allowed them to excel in the market and forced innovation on multiple ends to improve computing for everyone. From the perspective of a consumer in 2010, I would definitely be inclined to buy one of these laptops. The price to performance ratio is really hard to beat, and it makes sense why these laptops were so popular. Even today, if you can find one for around 20 bucks, I don't see why not to pick it up. You can do everything mentioned in this video and even use it for other projects. This may not even be the last time I bring this laptop out for the channel. And with that, we've made it to the end of the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you in the next video.